adoremus in aeternum sanctissimum sacramentum. Adoremus in aeternum sanctissimum sacramentum. Welcome to the 10th day of preparation for the consecration of Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament. On this 10th day, we focus on modesty, a characteristic of Mary's life. Mary's hidden life possesses a characteristic that distinguishes it from that of Jesus. We do not find in Mary that humility which astonishes and confounds, that mixture of power and weakness, of dignity and of submission, which is so admirable in the life of Jesus. Mary's life is always the same, simple and hidden, profoundly humble and modest. Modesty was a characteristic of her piety, of her virtues, and of all her actions. Mary was modest in her exterior. She was distinguished neither by an austere demeanor nor by an affected carelessness. Humble and sweet, like unto her divine Son. Her whole exterior bespoke her lowly condition and made her seem like a woman of the people. We too should try to avoid attracting attention to ourselves by modesty of behavior if we wish to resemble our Blessed Mother in her life. Mary was modest in the world. She eagerly sacrificed her privacy and the sweetness of heavenly contemplation in order to go to her cousin Elizabeth, to congratulate her, and to render her assistance. For 3 months, she was her constant companion, humbly waiting upon her, and she was the delight of that privileged household. When her son's glory demanded it, Mary appeared in public. She was present at the wedding feast of Cana. She spoke no word in her own praise, nor did she bring forward her title of Mother of God, nor the power and glory of her Son in order to gain the esteem of men. In her modesty, she gave heed to the call of charity and withdrew when she was no longer needed. Mary was modest in her duties. She fulfilled them all with sweetness, without eagerness, always satisfied, always prepared to take up some new duty. She fulfilled them with that equability of character which never lets any difficulty be seen and never asks for consolation, that never attracts attention because everything is done simply and as a matter of course. She is therefore a beautiful model for all those who wish to live the life of Jesus Eucharistic, the life of an adorer consecrated to the service of the Eucharistic King is composed of little sacrifices which God alone sees and rewards. The lowliness of his service constitutes all the honor, all the joy of his filial devotedness, and his sole ambition is to please his master by the constant sacrifice of self. Mary was modest in her piety. Mary, elevated to the highest degree of prayer to which any creature can attain, lived in the habitual exercise of perfect love, exalted above all the angels, and forming by her dignity of Mother of God an order apart in the wonders of God. She served her Lord, nevertheless, in the common, ordinary way of piety. She followed the prescriptions of the law, assisted at the legal feast, prayed with the multitude. Nothing distinguished her, not even her modesty, which she kept concealed. Nothing, not even extraordinary fervor, revealed in her exterior the perfection of her piety. She ought to be our piety. Such ought to be our piety. Nothing conspicuous in its practices, simple and modest in its action, carefully shunning all singularity, the subtle fruit of self-love, and everything out of the ordinary as likely to lead to vanity and illusion. Mary was modest in her virtues. Mary possessed all virtues in a supreme degree and practiced them all in their sovereign perfection, but not in an extraordinary manner. Her humility saw only the goodness of God, and for all the favors that she had received, she showed only humble gratitude, the gratitude of the poor, silent and undemonstrative, unnoticed by the world. Can anything good come from Nazareth? Consequently, no attention was paid to Mary. Behold, the great secret of perfection, to know how to find it in what is most simple, to know how to nourish it in what is most common, to know how to preserve it in the midst of indifference and forgetfulness. Virtue that is paraded in public is in a perilous condition. Virtue that is lauded and extolled is very near a fall. The flower that everyone admires quickly fades. Let us then love the little virtues of Nazareth, those hidden virtues that are born at the foot of the cross under the shadow of Jesus and Mary. Then shall we fear neither the tempest that shatters the cedars, nor the thunderbolt that strikes the mountaintop. Mary was modest in her sacrifices. Mary accepted exile silently and sweetly without a word of repining. She did not esteem herself the more because she was destined for great sacrifices, nor did she complain or beg for a lessening of their rigor. She was modest in enduring the anguish of her holy spouse. Rather than speak to him of the great mystery operated in her, which would have exalted her so in his eyes, she submitted to his doubts in silence and waited for heaven to vindicate her virtue, calmly abandoning herself to divine providence. With her heart pierced with sorrow, Mary followed her son bearing his cross. But she did not fill the streets of Jerusalem with her cries and her wails. On Calvary, plunged in an immeasurable sorrow, a sorrow as deep as her love, Mary suffered in silence. And after having taken a silent farewell of her son, she withdrew, broken-hearted, but resigned. Finally, Mary was modest in her glory, and this is the most wonderful triumph of Mary's modesty. Mary, by reason of her remarkable dignity as Mother of God, has the right to the homage of the universe. Yet Mary retained only the anguish and the sacrifice of her motherhood. Never was she seen in public when her son was honored and acclaimed. But when there was humiliation or suffering to be shared with him, his mother was always to be found by his side. If then we desire to be true children of this loving mother, we must clothe ourselves with her modesty. Let us often make this virtue the subject of our meditation, for it is the heritage left us by Mary. Let her modesty be the rule of our conduct. Let her simplicity, which forgets itself, seeing God alone, which inclines her towards duty rather than pleasure, to God himself rather than to his consolation, to love for love's sake. Let this single-mindedness then be our portion, the aim of all our efforts, and the characteristic of our life. Modesty is the sovereign virtue of an adorer, since it is the virtue of the servants of kings and the virtue of the angels in presence of the divine majesty. Modesty should therefore regulate our demeanor in the presence of God when we offer him the homage of our senses and of our faculties. It is the etiquette of his royal service. We must be modest, even as Mary, in the service of Jesus.
The angel of the Eucharist. It is well known by what devoted love and tender fidelity to the Eucharist a poor working girl, Marie Estelle, merited the beautiful name of the angel of the Eucharist. Being appointed by her pastor to take care of the parish sacristy, it is impossible to relate with what reverence and devotion she performed this sacred function, treated, alas, in some parishes with so little respect by hirelings. The first time it fell to her lot to prepare what was necessary for the offering of the holy sacrifice, the joy of her soul was equaled only by the deep sense of her unworthiness. She wrote on this subject, "I love to think that, like the Blessed Virgin, I am employed of the temple as much as my avocation will permit. And this thought rekindles my gratitude. But to be worthy of this holy position, I would need the purity of the Holy Virgin, which I am very far from having. Oh my God, I do not think enough about the account I must give in return for all these means of salvation. I am only taken up with the happiness this holy occupation brings me. May the Lord deign to adorn my soul with the purity of the angels, in order to draw so near to the Lord of the angels and to receive him so often. Practice. Let us try to show in our life the modesty of Jesus and his Holy Mother. Aspiration. We bless thee, O chaste dove, who didst bring to us the olive branch, and who didst predict Jesus' hostia, who will save us from spiritual deluge. St. Peter, Julian, Amor.
Pray for us. Adoremus in aeternum sanctissimum sacramentum